going to jump right into our Michigan preview, and we're going to move through this fairly quick. But Michigan finished the season 2-4 before pretty much canceling due to the COVID situation. They lost to rival Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Penn State, and only had wins against Minnesota and Rutgers. It was pretty much the type of season Harbaugh haters love and lovers hate because it was ugly. It was not pretty. It could have been worse as well if they kept on playing. It led to several coaching changes and philosophy, including a new defense. Don Brown has moved on to Arizona, and Mike Mcdonald, 34-year-old NFL assistant from the Ravens, who will be bringing in the 3-4 defense. Josh Gaddis returns as the OC, but they did shake up some position coaches, including bringing in Michigan legend Mike Hart. But the name people care about right now is Harbaugh, and how the staff and scheme transitions will affect his job. It's a weird time for him to bring in a new staff because it almost feels like his leash was about as short as possible. I don't think we need to get into our feelings about Harbaugh, whether we like him or hate him, if he's going to survive the year or anything like that.
Not yet.
We have plenty of football season to get into.
We have literally every week from here on to talk about
But what we want to
Harbaugh.
do is start previewing. We want to preview the offense, and per usual, it's going to start with the quarterback. The quarterback, a new one, another new quarterback. I mean, just write it into gravestone at this point.
Bring up the next one.
Cade McNamara.
Cade McNamara has gotten the job. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people. I feel like
Don't harp on it.
I feel awful for him because I feel like
he's under an enormous amount of pressure.
He's under a massive shadow already.
Yep.
At least I feel like that's the perception. I'm not sure that's technically the case yet.
It should not be the reality.
Shouldn't be.
Who's shadow?
Because JJ McCarthy, and I feel like I look at this guy as he's going to be the new Stafford to the state of Michigan, because half the people are going to be wanting to move on and not give him his due diligence when he does have good football games and he's making good throws and he's a good quarterback, because they want the next guy already. And the other half is going to be like, hey, I mean, reasonable. And be like, no, he had a good game. He's good. Let's let it ride. And if they want to bring in J.J. McCarthy eventually, like, we'll be okay with that. But I feel like it's just you already have that division, and I hate that for this kid. I hate that for this team. And I don't know. That's where I want to start the conversation. But, Ryan, eye test or whatever I was just saying, if you want to jump in. I mean, what do you think about Cade?
I think he's a true quarterback. I think he sees the field. He's not afraid to make the right throw at the right time. He doesn't second guess throwing the ball down the field. I think he's what Michigan needs right now. I really do. Micah.
What, is your mic off?
Oh, yeah.
No, your mic's on.
No, it's on.
Really?
Yeah, he just turned down your mic or your headphones. I saw it. And then he took off.
Okay. So I don't hear anything.
No, you're good, bro.
No, you're good. You got it. We got you.
Sorry.
All right, I'll take over.
So
Just
no.
do your thing.
From what Michigan needs, I think is the key, and I think what Harbaugh said. And look, and this is coach speak. There's a lot of good things being said about this guy, but I think what we're seeing is the first true quarterback, true leader, combination of skill and leadership that we haven't seen since Rudock, and I think that might be a little bit maybe unfair to Cade, because I think he's got more talent than Rudock ever had.
I agree.
But the leadership side that Rudock had is what made him great for University of Michigan.
Right.
And I'm really, really excited for what we got. What's going on? Did we lose your mic?
Hear my mic?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
What's
perfect.
going on? Right?
I guess the video's cutting in and out quite a bit, so
right.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, at least we got the podcast still recording.
Yeah,
Good.
we apologize
Good.
for that. It is what it is. You guys can handle us, though. It's
You know-
really about Michigan, right?
Yeah,
Cade McNamara.
here we go. So, got some quotes from Harbaugh. The biggest one, consistency of it doing his job. Harbaugh said at Monday's news conference, explaining how McNamara had also call it a talent of making everyone else better around you, or around you better, I should say. Maybe that is the most important job of a quarterback. He really knows his assignments, great work ethic, and just the unselfishness is probably the biggest thing that sticks out about his relationship, the desire to get the ball to playmakers and make people around him better, including the offensive line.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear when
Yeah.
it comes to being a Michigan quarterback.
100%.
You know what? I think from the eye test as well from last year, we all saw that. We saw the difference of Joe Milton in there and then going to Cade McNamara, and we saw, oh, wait, that's what a quarterback is supposed to
What
look
a
like.
leader. And it was leadership.
It was.
It wasn't arm talent. It wasn't
Well, it was
scrambling.
mixed. It was
wasn't-
mixed.
Yeah.
It was those things plus confidence,
Yeah.
plus teammate confidence, making
Yeah.
everybody around him a little bit better. And
You
I
could see it it was night and day difference.
early.
Yeah.
And that was the frustrating part about last year is all the fans knew it. Jim Harbaugh did not know that.
It
yet.
almost came off
And that's
as
scary.
it almost came off as a comfort to the teammates. You know, things kind of got a little more relaxed, maybe a little bit more fun, but then there was some confidence being instilled into those teammates of theirs.
Yeah.
It was a different sense on the field.
And I'm not going to be the one to say Kade McNamara is going to bring Michigan into Final Four playoff or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm not calling for that.
Nope.
What I'm saying is this is a different feeling than the last couple, 3-4 years maybe. And I feel like there's the way Jim Harbaugh talked about this being consistent and doing his feel about Cade McNamara from last year. I haven't seen him this year.
Yeah, he's
Just
not,
limited.
Like the biggest thing with Cade is, like you said, he's not going to automatically make them Big Ten title contenders. He's not making them anything to that caliber. No reason for us to say that. But he's not going to be the one that holds them back from that if and when it strikes fire and everything else is good around them. I'm not saying they're not close to that this year.
Right.
We'll get into the schedule game later, and I'm sure we'll be a little more honest. But he's not the one that's going to hold them back. Like I think we ran into with Peters, like we ran into with the guy between Rudock and Peters, who was
Spate.
Spate,
Wilton
where
Spate.
it just wasn't
Ugh.
it wasn't good. It wasn't good
No.
enough,
No.
And yet they still
they
won
had
games.
pretty solid teams that could have been closer to contenders, if that's the right word.
But yeah, and you
they were quarterback away from being in the final.
You tend to
Four
find
playoffs.
out through reports because we don't live there. We don't know what goes on there behind closed doors. Is a lot of off-field stuff, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a lot of reports of off-field differences with Cade right now. Patterson, he was spending a lot more time on the golf course, factually, than some other things. And then Wilton Spate, he was kind of just living it up, living the high life as a big brand Michigan quarterback. And really the last time we saw someone dedicated to his craft was Jake Rudock.
Yeah.
And
Well-
that was the first year of Jim Harbaugh at
'Cause he was a
Michigan.
quarterback.
And I'd love to bring this up is J.J. McCarthy is obviously what we hope to be the future of U of M
Correct.
football, right?
Yep.
He's a true freshman this year. And I don't think it's fair to put that on him. Even if he might be the better arm talent, he might be the better long-term talent and vision
Sure.
for this team.
Yep.
But I personally do not want to put that pressure on. I want him to earn it maybe mid-season. Like if McNamara is not giving what he should, what we all expect to U of M, then J.J. McCarthy might come in, and now he's in a really good spot where he's coming in and being the hero, and he can win the fan base over from the beginning. There's no expectations up front, and if you look at some of these games early, like it's not going to be the easiest thing
No, it's really not.
for U of M to establish themselves. I don't need to go much further than that, but I'm just McNamara. I am excited about him. I'm looking forward to this offense. I'm looking forward to the way he conducts himself on the field, and I think the difference between him and Joe Milton from last year is going to be a huge, stark difference. It's going to be completely opposite. Instead of hanging his head, he's going to be the guy that's going to be ready to go out and prove himself the next time. And that proving yourself mentality is exactly what U of M needs right now.
So moving on to the offensive line, Harbaugh did not name a starting offensive line when he was at the podium yesterday, but says that they have as many as 8 players they consider starters up front. Concerning comments, in my opinion.
How does it make you feel?
I don't like that. Okay. I like competition, especially in the college game.
Yes.
But for the offensive line, I am not a big fan of competition because it's a unit. They're to be
rotation.
I want there to be a camaraderie. Can't even say it when you guys
Spell
say it
it.
for me.
Rotary.
Nope. But anyways, I did find a projection that said the starters will be Ryan Hayes. He's obviously going to be the left tackle. There's no
Yes.
question
Yep.
about that. Trevor Keegan at left guard. Andrew Vestardis at center. There's also been people saying that Zach Zinter might move over to center. And they'll kind of switch spots to the
move
left
around.
guard, or
Zach
right guard.
Zinter's been center. Now he's playing guard.
Is that true? I don't think that's
Yeah,
true.
he's played center.
Yeah, he
Oh.
can move around the
Okay.
line. That's
All
what
right.
I was saying.
Yeah.
Andrew Stuber at right tackle.
which is a familiar name again.
Yep.
Backups doesn't need to really get too worried about it. Zinner and Hayes have NFL in their future. Very good offense linemen, good bodies. Gotta love that.
I want to bring this to kind of the forefront is out of these 5 players you just mentioned as the projected starters, Ryan Hayes, Andrew Vestardis, Zach Zinner, and Andrew Stuber are all previous starters.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have
Correct.
a lot of time on the offensive line.
It
Trevor
wasn't
Keegan,
pretty at the time. At times,
here and
but-
there, here and there, quarterback that couldn't make a decision. And I will. You guys know this at
Good
this
point.
point. I am a firm believer of a quarterback is very, very capable of making an offensive line look really bad or really good. And Tom Brady's a good example of that. He can make an offensive line look really good because he doesn't let anybody sack him. He throws the ball. He gets rid of it. He spikes it, whatever, throws it over somebody's head, and then makes the next good play. Other quarterbacks where it turns into turnovers because they can't make a good decision, those offensive linemen look a lot worse because it turns into impact plays.
that makes sense.
Yep.
I think the biggest key is here. It sounds like they're comfortable with their depth, but can they become elite? And that's very important, especially once you start getting into the weapons. And I think that starts with the running game.
So many things are going to hinge on this line.
Where
the
do you
line
think,
has to be
so, I mean, from what it sounds like one of the deepest position groups on the field. I think the wide receivers could make a case, but let's start with the running backs. Hassan Haskins returns, who has 997 yards on 182 carries. It's a 5.5 average. He's 6'1", 220. He's a senior. Could be kind of your old school powerish back. I don't think he's necessarily a power back, but he's not your lightning speed back either. So he's kind of the I know it's a...
He's unique.
I've got a lot of feelings about
Yeah,
him. He has, when you say the word unique, that's a perfect word. I think he has a unique ability to make people miss and to move his hips. So linebackers and safeties and cornerbacks, when they're coming up on him, he just sheds tackles, and he's always been able to do that. And that's been the difference between him and Zach Charbonnet, who left.
Yep.
And that's been the difference between him and everybody else in the running back room. Really, he has a unique ability to make people miss.
He's kind of built like a slender linebacker, and he may have actually been recruited as a linebacker.
He was.
Was he?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a linebacker first and converted to running back.
Just bizarre that right now he is the forefront star of that running back corps, but Blake Coram is right on his tail, and he's going to split time with Blake.
So Blake is that lightning guy. He's a little faster, speedier, but he's
Faster.
also smaller in stature.
Oh, he is almost – he is kind of like Thomas Rawls, but faster.
Like a Mike Hart.
But faster.
Yeah?
He is
like a Darren
fast.
Sproles, but bigger, you could say, because he's jacked.
Like a Mark Ingram, but not.
If anybody's paid attention to him, to his transition of his body, which sounds a little weird, but from last year to this year, he is jacked. He's put on a lot of muscle.
Yes, he did.
He's been doing a lot. And Mike Hart is actually comparing him to himself, to Mike Hart, so it's a valid comparison there, but for not the reasons of their style of running, but rather their commitment to the game of football.
Correct.
And their work ethic.
Then you bring in Edwards, the 5-star
The talent.
prize of the recruiting class this year.
Kid's special.
I mean, we heard that before with what's the grade E's coming out of the East Grand Rapids and
He
stuff.
was. He tore his ACL.
I want to see it, man.
Donovan
I mean,
Edwards is going to be different.
So, I mean, basically, people say he has to get involved in this offense. There's no reason to keep him out. He's going to get his touches.
Oh, yeah.
Where will be interesting, and how they utilize him will be interesting, because I don't want to necessarily say take away carries from Haskins if you're going to make Haskins that bell cow that he has the ability to become. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want this is Edwards' drive, this is Haskins' drive. I don't want that. Just like an offensive line, I think a running back needs to get in a groove and needs to be consistent. I'm a little nervous about that, but don't get me wrong. I want to see this guy. I want to see him on the field, and you have to keep him on the field, otherwise he's going to jump ship.
You know how interesting this could be? If you honestly got all three of these guys out there, you put Haskins and Coram in the backfield, and then you put Donovan Edwards in the slot, along with the wide receivers that we'll talk about in a little bit here, things could get very interesting.
I will
say, because
say
Donovan Edwards is not your downhill type of running back. He is a do-it-all athlete where he shines is running back, and he's going to be that good if they use him properly.
He reminds me of Adrian Peterson, and I'm not saying that as the downhill running back, like seeking contact. I'm just thinking of like tall, upright
runner.
That is a really dynamic athlete that can hit a hole as fast as he possibly can and make really good cuts up the field. And that's the best comparison I can draw from the top of my head, I guess. But I also think with those three guys that we just mentioned, those could be the three top targets or athletes that we want to get involved in this offense.
Yeah.
And that's not taken away from the wide receiver group, because I think they're very capable. I'm just thinking the running back group is full.
Yeah. No, I think let's keep on moving. I really like the speed we're going here. Wide receivers, Ronnie Bell, Cornelius Johnson, Dalen Baldwin, and Mike Sandestrill are the starters, projected starters. A.J. Henning, Roman Wilson, Andrew Anthony, and Christian Dixon are considered backups. With 74 receptions the past 2 seasons, including a team-high 402 yards last season, Bell is the top target for this offense. While he can play on the outside, he's best attacking the middle. It feels like they're going to maybe
he's the safety net.
He's the safety net, but he's a great safety net to have.
Yeah, he is.
That guy became so valuable to this team in so many ways, but I don't even think he's the guy that's going to lead this team in receiving. Do you guys?
Really?
I look at it as Johnson, man.
Cornelius Johnson has an NFL-type body.
And so does Baldwin, too. So
yeah,
Baldwin, real quick about Baldwin, he went to Jackson State. He was out of Farmington Hills, Michigan. He went to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. Didn't put up like gaudy numbers by any means, but he fits the mold of an NFL guy. Like, they're basically mirror images of each other. Baldwin and Johnson, they're both 6'3", and decent enough speed, but the wide receiver body that is intriguing that I think could be beneficial if we have the right quarterback. Our NFL body wide receivers were absolutely garbage with the quarterbacks we had. They couldn't throw accurate down the field. Can Cade do that? Will be interesting. I'm confident that they can, but talk a little bit about these wide receivers.
I don't think you're necessarily overlooking Sanderstil on purpose, but do not forget about Mike Sanderstil. The kid's special.
I agree.
He's got good hands. He does well after the catch. I mean, I don't have his yak numbers in front of me, but do not forget about Mike.
He doesn't have issues dropping the ball or anything like that. Yeah.
No.
I think a guy like Cornelius Johnson, though, is a great example of what we want Michigan to get back to. This is a junior who's now ready for the spotlight.
Right.
And he doesn't need to be the flashy 5-star All-American freshman to take the world by storm and now be like an NFL prospect right off the bat.
Yes.
We want him coming in and doing his job, learning how to get open, and then using his athletic ability later in life. 2 years. Yeah, it's still later in life. But as a junior, which makes a big difference from these 18-year-old kids coming in, and now I guess like showing his dominance over younger or equal athletes than himself.
Right.
And that's what Michigan used to be. It used to be a pipeline for these kind of guys to come in and shine as a junior and senior and win the Big Ten or compete for the Big Ten and be those guys to be an all-conference type of athlete, and the more we can get back to that, the better. Cornelius Johnson is that to me, and I think he will thrive in an offense where Kade McNamara wants to throw the ball down the field. And let's say Cade doesn't even work out. JJ is going to throw the ball down the field.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are going to get their opportunities. It's different from last year's offense under Joe Milton. It's different than even the last few years where these guys could not throw the ball accurately down the field. It was more of a West Coast style. We have two quarterbacks that can throw the ball 10, 15, 20, 25 yards down the field.
With touch.
It's
evident.
accurate is the key, I think.
Not to say that our
because
offense is
Milton
going to
make any throw in the book.
Right.
But he couldn't do it accurately.
He couldn't.
And he couldn't decide.
He could
couldn't
throw
decide
70
quick
yards
enough.
down the field, but he didn't know what to do with his arms.
So, okay, listen, maybe we don't have – listen, I don't think any college team out there has 4 all-stars lining up on the outside. It's not happening. Okay.
Ohio State,
okay.
Ohio State
okay.
does, but
The exceptions. I would love to be in that case. So, talking depth, I do honestly believe with the names that we're looking at here with A.J. Henning, Roman Wilson, Andrel Anthony, who is out of Lansing, which I love because he didn't go with Sparty. He went with Blue. And Christian Dixon out of California. Listen, I wouldn't say it's ridiculous because we don't know what we have, but it's really good. It's very solid. So, you say you have a Dalen Baldwin or a Sanderstill that goes down with an injury. I have confidence in all the world that one of these 4 are going to fill that gap just fine. A.J. Henning, Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of Illinois. And I remember J.J. McCarthy playing against him. And so they built a relationship, built a good chemistry here in camp, and we'll see where it takes him. And Roman Wilson out of Hawaii. He's tall, slender, good hands, great wideout.
for sure. I did want to talk a little bit about the defense. Starting with the defensive line, the knock against previous coordinator was Don Brown was that his scheme was too predictable, and Michigan suffered the consequences more often than not in high-profile matchups. Enter Mike Mcdonald, the former linebackers coach from the Ravens, who joined the staff in January.
Who's
and
jacked.
is changing up looks. What's that?
He's jacked.
Is he
He's
jacked?
jacked?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Good for him.
The Wolverines plan to move to a 3-4 front and are using ends Aiden Hutchinson and Taylor Upshaw in a stand-up outside linebacker roles and plan to utilize more of a zone coverage in the passing game. So I didn't want to start with the defensive line. Obviously, you're not going to get the big names in here because we're going to consider them the linebackers as we move forward here. But the defensive line, you got Mozzie Smith, Chris Hinton, and Donovan Jeter. So you got 6'3", 326, 6'4", 310, and 6'3", 325. That's a lot of beef, and I think that's very important in this Big Ten schedule.
I 100% agree with you. The games that we have been overmatched in the last couple of years have been the defensive line. And actually, these same guys.
Mm-hmm.
It was when they were freshmen and sophomores, and now they're juniors and seniors. And I think it'll just pay off in the end. Right now, we're going to be reaping the benefits of having bigger bodies in the middle to fill the gaps that we need them to fill and do something against the run, which has been such a difficult thing for the Wolverines.
I think the scheme is the biggest thing of why they were so bad against the run. Because as soon as they got beat, it was, what is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You know what I mean? If you got past that 30-yard mark, they were gone.
Well, that's
and
because
that made everybody look worse than they actually were, I think.
I 100% agree, and that was because we were so reliant on the linebackers filling those gaps. So if they missed their assignment, or if there was one cutback where somebody didn't do their job, he was gone for 15, 20, 75 yards.
Yeah, where this type of defense shouldn't have that as often. Will it? We'll see. I don't know much about these guys. All that I saw was the size of them and using that the right way. And I'm excited to see it.
And I'm not going to get too much into this, but we're running a 3-4 defense, which means, again, these guys are going to be engaging their blockers and then being able to move right or left depending on where the run or play is going. So they're expected to fill 2 gaps. That's what a 3-4 off or a defense does. 2-gap defense. 1-gap defense is 4-3, where they choose one side, they attack that one side, and then it's predictable. So with these bigger bodies, it's easier to run those 3-4 style defenses, which we're going to do this year, because they can engage the blocker, and they're too strong, too big to move where you want. They can fill whatever gap they need to, right or left. They can throw an arm out there and take somebody down. And now that frees up your linebackers to be more athletic and make plays and be less reliant on filling a specific hole and more reliant on using your instincts and your athleticism.
Love that. I love that. That was you taught me something there, and I appreciate it.
Perfect. I love it.
That was good. So let's go jump down to the linebackers. Inside, you got Josh Ross, Nikhil Hill Green, and then you got the backups with Michael Barrett, Colson, and Mullings. The big one is, the big two. These guys are so important to this defense. Is Ross and Green. We talked a little bit about Ross last week. I think it was kind of mixed reviews. I think this was off air actually, talking a little bit about do we trust him fully. I feel like Micah trusted him more and you didn't as much. I could be wrong on that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you guys think about the inside linebackers, how the scheme works, and will it work for these two guys?
Real quick. So Josh Ross has been a starter since he was a sophomore. He has elite speed for a linebacker. He is strong. He keeps getting stronger with age. He's had some injury history in the past, but for me, he's always underperformed. And he is a captain this year. Harbaugh trusts him. I'm not saying that he's not a good player. He could be a breakout player this year, hint for later. But I think he has all the capabilities and ability to do what we need him to do in the middle of the field, cover a lot of ground, be a strong force. What I think about Nikhil Hill Green is Nakai Hill Green. I think that's a bigger statement for leapfrogging Michael Barrett at that position because Michael Barrett was the breakout season. If you remember last year, he had a breakout game against Minnesota and just lit that game up, and everybody thought he was going to be the next big Michigan linebacker, and now he's getting beat by a sophomore.
Right.
And I think it speaks to the depth that Michigan has at this linebacker position.
So I think part of me goes, I hope this isn't another Joe Milton, Cade McNamara, like someone so-and-so leapfrogs this guy to get that starting position, and then someone comes in to take his spot, and why didn't we start this guy the whole time? But that's not fair. That's not to say that with Nakai and with Michael Barrett. So I'm going to trust Mike Mcdonald right now because this is all new, just like a lot of Sparties are kind of feeling the new gut feeling right now. I'm gonna give Mike Mcdonald that trust in Nakai and that decision and let that play out in the first 3-4 games and see how it goes.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah, but to get back to your point, Josh Ross, I do trust him. I think he's the right person to have on the field. It's important to have that leadership on the field, being a redshirt senior.
100%, it's your leader.
I think that the changing of scheme kind of helped because if he was going to be the Viper, he was going to fail at that.
Yeah.
And now that he doesn't have to be that, it'll be interesting to see how he adapts and how he changes. Is he better than what we thought because the scheme kind of fits his thing?
And not only that, we have Michael Barrett as our backup ultra athlete linebacker to fill any gaps that are needed.
So we'll jump to the edge rushers, outside linebackers type guys. Aiden Hutchinson, obviously big name, very important to this defense. I saw David Ajabo as a projected starter on the outside.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think he jumps Upshaw this year?
Different positions.
Is it?
Yeah, David Ajabo is the outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense, so he will rush the quarterback, but he has different responsibilities than a Taylor Upshaw.
Okay.
Taylor Upshaw will be out there as an outside or as a defensive end in run scenarios. Pass rush will go to the more athletic David Ajabo.
Oh, okay.
Right. You're gonna see probably a couple different looks from a 3-4 to a 4-3 with Mike Mcdonald's system.
Based on the down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you may see them out there at the same time. You may see some rotation. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it plays out.
Let's jump to some DBs and secondary type thing. Jimon Green.
I think it's yeah.
Jimon Green.
And then DJ Turner and then Vincent Gray are kind of the projected starters that I've seen here in the cornerback slots. Mike, one thing about Green, and do you think he can be the guy that we need?
I do, and it's just based on eye test. But there was someone else that I was more eyeing, and I'd rather talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
So Vincent Gray, he kind of came onto the scene as a freshman. He kind of lit the
Played really
Michigan world on fire. He played really well, and then his sophomore year, he had a real bad outing. Sophomore year, it just wasn't good. It was almost polarizing because we'd look at him getting burned constantly, and we started kind of like taking a step back, thinking, maybe this isn't our guy, in the secondary. And I do think he has the tangibles to be that guy. He has the tangibles to be the dude, like Don Brown used to say, okay? So I think he's looking at a bounce back year for cornerback.
He's gotten worse every year, which is the complete opposite of what you would normally expect in college.
Right.
As an 18-year-old, he was awesome. As a 19, 20-year-old, he got worse and worse. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not actually expecting him to be the starter. I am more expecting Daxton Hill to move from only safety responsibilities to bouncing all over the field and being that dynamic weapon on the defensive end, being a cornerback when they need him. And I think he'll play a lot of corner this year.
Yeah.
I really do, in the middle of the field. And then also be the athletic safety to run all over the place and make a play.
Then what do you think about Brad Hawkins as well in that safety position? I think Daxton Hill,
he's rock solid.
Yeah,
Yep.
you like Hawkins?
I think Hawkins is again rock solid. He's been
Leadership
there.
too.
He's seen
senior.
that. Yeah.
He's made some mistakes. He's learned from those mistakes.
Not the most athletic.
Correct. Not the most athletic, but he is going to prove to be not dominant. What would you say? Reliable. There you go. Great word.
And I don't need to get into too much in this cornerback situation, but Sam, you and I have talked about this before, and I just want to at least say it so it's on record, kind of. But Jamon Green and Vincent Gray got beat a lot last year, but even DJ Turner. So last year, our cornerbacks were atrocious. They were terrible. However, if you watch those big plays that occurred against Michigan, you will see a common theme. It's where the cornerbacks are in a really good position. They're always ready to make a play. They just never make a play. They never turn their head around, or they're trying to turn their head around at the last minute, and they just can't make a play. But these guys are not getting beat from a lack of athleticism. I think they're getting beat because of a lack of coaching and experience, and they're just not making the play at the time that they need to make it. So if that makes any sense at all, a deep ball, they would get beat. They were all over the wide receiver, shadowing them the whole way down the field, but they never knew when to make the play on the ball. And so I think that is something that is coachable, and it's not necessarily ability.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
natural ability.
So do you think Don Brown's defense made these guys afraid to make their own decisions?
I don't know if they were all ready. It was all in one year. They all had to do it at the same time. And then they also all got tested against Michigan State all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's almost like Don Brown's defense got old for all these players that are in Michigan's system right now.
It almost feels like that defense handcuffed them to make plays. And defenders make plays. That is their job. Yeah, scheme is very important, and assignments are extremely important as well.
Right.
But you got to find guys that just go out and make plays.
Correct.
And I feel like they weren't allowed to do that. And I think Daxton Hill's a guy that will flourish without that handcuff.
He's a junior.
Correct.
It's time.
Yeah.
Now,
go prove it.
Now, listen, I'm not saying or agreeing with you that I think Mike Mcdonald's defense is just going to be just life-changing
but
and
he's going to be on the field,
but
short sleeve shirt,
but listen,
jacked.
But he is going to be coaching from the sidelines, which was the same as Don Brown.
Yeah.
However, like when you see a lot of guys just kind of up in the press box, they're not connecting with their players. Period.
Yeah.
They're talking with their inside linebacker, of course. They're mic'd in with their helmet, but in the end, this is going to be good for Mike Mcdonald to be on the sidelines, talking with their players, making adjustments as the game goes on. And honestly, this 3-4, 4-3 defense that Mike Mcdonald is going to run, this is your typical NFL defense. that these kids are expected to learn and to play towards as their goal. And this isn't Don Brown's wild and wacky defense with the Viper, which was fun to watch for a couple of years, but then it got old.
Yep. No, I think that's right where I'm at as well. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and people's you-know-whats and say that this is going to be an easy transition. It's very, very difficult. It's a very difficult transition to go from a 4-3 to a 3-4, especially when you don't have the right guys. I think we might have the right guys. I like the veteran leadership in the key positions that I think it will be a smoother transition, but I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. It's not going to be fun.
Right.
It could be very difficult, especially in the big high-profile games again.
They have athletes in the right places.
But the athletes in the right places are the key. Offensively, I do like the weapons as well. I like what I'm hearing about Cade. I'm trying to be cautious on my feelings about this team as a whole
100%.
because what we've seen, I shouldn't be confident. You know what I mean? There's no reason why I should watch this team in the last 1.5 years and say that they're going to be good this year.
Right.
I shouldn't do that.
We are in
And
a wait and see,
Yes.
it mentality, and that's exactly where we should be based on what they've done recently.